The blackness of space stretched endlessly around the human fleet. Millions of stars glimmered far away, but here, at the edge of an unknown warzone, nothing moved except for the soft hum of the human ships. Commander Elias stood on the bridge of the flagship, his hands resting lightly on the railing. His eyes scanned the endless darkness ahead. This was the moment humanity had been waiting for, the moment to prove themselves against an enemy no one had ever truly faced. The alien planet below was quiet. No signals, no movement, just an eerie silence that made the crew tense. The enemy had been waiting for humans to arrive, yet strangely, there was no sign of life. The sensors flickered, showing nothing but barren terrain and massive structures that looked abandoned. Elias frowned. Something was wrong. No army stayed still like this. Something was hiding. On the lower deck, Lieutenant Mara checked the weapon systems. "All systems ready, Commander," she said, her voice steady but quiet. There was fear, but also excitement. Every human here had trained for this moment. Every human had waited for the day they would face the unknown, and now it was here. The fleet moved slowly, like shadows over the surface of the planet. The enemy's sensors, Elias realized, could not detect them yet. The humans were invisible to the eyes of their foes. "This is our advantage," Elias whispered, almost to himself. "We strike first, and they never know what hit them." The silence broke when the first ships unleashed their energy cannons. Bright lines of blue light shot from the human fleet, cutting through the dark sky and striking alien towers. Explosions erupted in quick succession, lighting up the planet's surface like a storm of fire. The crew cheered quietly, but Elias kept his eyes sharp. This was only the beginning. Alien defenders scrambled from underground bunkers and scattered over the planet. Their machines were massive and strange, with limbs that twisted in directions no human design had ever imagined. They fired back, but the shots were slow and clumsy, missing most targets. Humans had moved faster, aimed better, and thought smarter. The first wave of the enemy was destroyed before they even knew what had happened. Elias felt a rush of pride, but he did not let himself smile. Something about the enemy's silence had felt unnatural. "Keep scanning," he ordered. "There is more." The crew obeyed. Their sensors swept the planet, looking for any hidden threats. That was when they found it. Deep underground, in caverns that twisted like the roots of a dead tree, something moved. Small, glowing eyes appeared in the darkness, watching the humans from far below. The enemy was not just machines. They were alive, and they were thinking. They had waited for humans to arrive, and now, they were preparing for the fight humans could not yet see. Mara noticed the movement first. "Commander, there's something down there," she said. "They are alive. Not all of them are machines." Elias's heart skipped. This was worse than he had imagined. They had assumed the enemy was weak, slow, predictable. But now, they realized the danger was far greater. The humans paused their attack, waiting for the hidden threat to make its move. The tension was like a heavy cloud in the control room. Every eye on the bridge was fixed on the sensors, every hand ready on a trigger. Even the air felt different, charged with anticipation. Then, with a sudden roar, the underground creatures surged upward. They were fast, more agile than humans expected. Their metallic limbs clashed with human shields, sparks flying as they tried to break through the defenses. But humans had come prepared. Every weapon was calibrated for maximum impact, every strategy designed for precision. One by one, the creatures fell, unable to withstand the calculated fury of human firepower. Elias watched, heart pounding, as his crew moved like a single organism. Ships darted above the planet, fighters weaving through the sky, targeting every enemy unit. Humans were not just fighting, they were dancing through the chaos, turning every danger into an opportunity. It was brutal, it was beautiful, and it was terrifying for any who opposed them. Amid the battle, Elias realized something else. The enemy had not expected humans to be this united, this fearless, this relentless. Every move, every shot, every decision showed the strength of human spirit. They did not rely on chance, luck, or brute force alone. They relied on thinking, on cooperation, on courage that no machine or alien could ever replicate. For a moment, the planet seemed still again. The first wave of the enemy had been crushed, the underground creatures destroyed or retreating. Silence returned, heavier now, filled with the sound of distant explosions and the hum of human engines. Elias looked out at the dark horizon. This was only the beginning. The enemy had secrets still, traps hidden, and strategies unknown. But one thing was clear. Humanity had entered the war zone, and the enemy had not survived a single moment of the first attack. Elias clenched his fists. "Prepare for the next wave," he ordered. "We will show them what humanity can do." Around him, the crew nodded, faces shining with determination. They had faced the unknown, and they had won the first fight. The war had just begun, but humans had already proven one thing: they would not back down, and they would not fail. The stars waited, and humanity was ready. The silence did not last long. Just when the humans thought the first wave was over, alarms blared across the flagship. The sensors flickered wildly, showing movement across the horizon. Alien ships, faster and bigger than any the humans had seen, rose from the shadows. They moved in perfect formation, as if they had been waiting for this exact moment. Commander Elias gripped the railing, eyes narrowing. "They were waiting for us. They planned this." His voice was calm, but inside, a storm of tension raged. The enemy had recovered faster than expected, and now they were coming with everything they had. Lieutenant Mara's fingers flew over the controls. Weapons online. Shields at full. Fighters standing by. The crew moved like a single organism, trained to respond instantly to any threat. The enemy fire was faster now, and their attacks were clever. Lasers cut through the sky, forcing the humans to dodge with precision. Each shot from the aliens was calculated to hit a weak point, testing the humans' defenses. The flagship shook as a large blast hit the hull. Sparks flew across the bridge. Crew members ducked, but no one panicked. Elias stayed steady, his mind moving faster than the battle itself. "Focus on their leadership," he ordered. "Take it down first, the others will fall after." Fighter squads jumped into action. Small, nimble ships darted through the alien formation, dodging fire while striking at weak points. Explosions lit the black sky as human weapons tore through enemy armor. The alien leadership glowed red, powering up strange energy weapons. It was clear this was no ordinary machine. Something inside it controlled the others, coordinating their attack. The humans adapted quickly. Elias watched the tactical map, noticing a pattern in the alien movements. They repeated the same sequence, over and over. "They are predictable," he realized. "We just have to wait for the right moment." He signaled the fleet. "Hold fire. Let them make the next move. Then strike." Seconds later, the alien leadership fired a massive energy beam. It cut through the atmosphere, and human ships scattered, narrowly avoiding destruction. The beam hit a small mountain, turning stone into molten rock. The humans now understood the scale of the enemy's power. But Elias was ready. He smiled slightly. "Now," he whispered. The human fleet responded with a coordinated strike. Energy cannons, missiles, and plasma bolts targeted the alien leadership's core. The beam faltered, sparks flying from the alien hull. Fighters moved in closer, dodging enemy fire with precision. Every human pilot seemed to know the exact moment to attack, the exact moment to pull back. Meanwhile, Mara discovered something important. "Commander, their energy shields fluctuate when they fire. We can exploit that." Elias nodded. He gave the order. "All units, focus fire on the core during their attack cycles. Hit when shields are down." It worked. The alien leadership shuddered violently, sparks flying, metal twisting. Its control over the other ships wavered. The smaller alien vessels faltered, confused without guidance. Humans pressed the attack, showing no mercy. One by one, enemy ships fell from the sky, exploding in brilliant flashes of light. Even as victory seemed near, Elias sensed more danger. The ground below the alien stronghold began to shake. Massive underground machines erupted from the surface, their limbs cracking rock and earth. The humans had not yet faced the full strength of the enemy. Their focus shifted quickly. Fighters changed targets, shields reinforced, and new strategies formed in seconds. The humans' coordination amazed even the aliens. Every move seemed predicted, every attack countered before it could succeed. The enemy tried to regroup, but humans had already adapted to their style. Intelligence, strategy, and courage flowed through every member of the fleet. No machine, no matter how advanced, could match the ingenuity of humanity working together. Elias ordered a daring maneuver. A squad of small fighters would dive close to the alien stronghold, drawing fire while the main fleet struck from afar. The plan was risky, but necessary. The fighters weaved through blasts, narrowly avoiding destruction. Explosions shook the ground below, but they held their course, luring the enemy into a trap. At the precise moment, the main fleet fired all weapons. The combined energy ripped through the alien defenses, striking the underground machines with devastating effect. The ground shook violently, and the alien structures crumbled. Sparks and smoke rose, painting the battlefield with fire and metal. The humans had struck first and struck smart. Elias allowed himself a short breath, but he knew this was not the end. The aliens were cunning, and more surprises awaited. Still, humans had proven their strength once again. They had adapted, outsmarted, and survived an attack that could have destroyed them. The fleet hovered above the battlefield, energy weapons ready, eyes scanning for any remaining threats. The first real counterattack had come and failed. The humans had survived. The enemy had underestimated them, and now the war had truly begun. Elias looked out into space, his expression hard but determined. "They think they can stop us," he said. "They have no idea what humanity is capable of." Around him, the crew prepared for the next wave. They were tired, yes, but unbroken. They had faced the enemy's first strike and emerged stronger. And they would not stop until the threat was completely gone. The war had begun in earnest, and humanity was ready to fight, to survive, and to win. The battlefield below seemed calm at first. Smoke rose from shattered alien structures, and the ground was littered with twisted metal. The humans hovered above, scanning for any signs of surviving enemies. It looked like the first counterattack had failed, but Commander Elias knew better. The silence was too deep, too unnatural. The real threat was still hidden. "Commander, I'm picking up movement," Lieutenant Mara said, her voice tense. The sensors showed strange patterns beneath the surface. Massive, shifting shapes moved like shadows under the planet. The humans realized with a shiver that the enemy was not gone. They were waiting, hidden underground. Elias clenched his fists. "Prepare for close combat," he ordered. "They are coming to us, and they will be faster than we expect." The fleet tightened formation, ready for any attack. Fighters zipped through the sky, scanning the horizon, while the larger ships hovered like predators ready to strike. Without warning, the ground shook violently. Cracks split the surface, and enormous alien machines burst out. These were not like the ones humans had fought before. They were alive, organic in parts, with glowing veins of energy running through their metal limbs. Their eyes burned with intelligence and fury, and their movements were fast, almost fluid. Human weapons fired immediately. Energy bolts tore through the attacking machines, and explosions rocked the battlefield. But these underground enemies were stronger, smarter. They dodged attacks, adapted quickly, and struck with brutal precision. One massive creature swung a heavy limb, smashing a human fighter into the ground. Sparks flew as metal collided with metal. Elias watched from the flagship, heart pounding. "Focus fire on the glowing cores," he commanded. "We need to destroy the energy centers, or they won't stop." Mara adjusted the targeting systems, guiding human weapons to strike the core of each machine. One by one, the underground attackers faltered, some destroyed, but many still pressed forward, relentless and terrifying. The humans realized that this was not just a battle. It was a test. The aliens were sending their strongest units, showing their full power. And yet, humans did not falter. Each ship moved with precision, each pilot calculated their actions to avoid danger. They were disciplined, unafraid, and ready for anything. A group of alien machines suddenly split from the main wave, heading straight for the human flagship. Their limbs smashed through energy shields, and crew members scrambled to respond. Elias remained calm. "Divert fighter squadrons. Draw them away from the main ship," he ordered. The humans moved quickly, using their intelligence and coordination to outmaneuver the attackers. Meanwhile, Mara discovered something unexpected. "Commander, these creatures, they respond to each other. They communicate in ways we don't understand. But I've noticed a pattern. When one is hit in the core, the others hesitate for a moment." Elias nodded quickly. "Good. Exploit that. Hit one, then another. Never let them recover fully." The fleet adjusted their strategy, targeting one machine at a time with precision strikes. Explosions erupted, tearing through the alien ranks. The glowing veins in their limbs flickered and died. The creatures roared, a sound unlike any human had heard before, a mix of metal grinding and organic shrieking. But humans pressed on, relentless and focused. Even as victory seemed possible, the commander sensed something deeper. The underground network of the enemy was vast. These surface attacks were only part of the challenge. Below, in hidden caverns and tunnels, far greater threats waited. The humans had not yet faced the full scale of the enemy's power. Suddenly, the ground shook again, harder than before. A massive shadow rose from the depths, towering over the battlefield. Its body was a combination of metal and living tissue, eyes glowing red, limbs thrashing with unbelievable speed. The humans froze for a moment, realizing that this was no ordinary attacker. This was a warlord, a central force controlling the underground armies. Elias gritted his teeth. "All units, focus on the warlord. Everything else is secondary," he shouted. The fleet responded instantly, converging fire on the massive enemy. Explosions lit the sky, the warlord staggering under the human assault. But even as it fell, smaller creatures continued to attack, showing that the underground enemy was far from defeated. The battle raged on. The humans fought with precision, courage, and intelligence, using teamwork to overcome overwhelming numbers. Fighters weaved through the sky, large ships fired in coordinated patterns, and every human on the battlefield knew their role perfectly. Even the warlord's tremendous strength could not match the organized power of humanity. As the dust settled, the humans hovered above the battlefield, exhausted but unbroken. The underground enemy had revealed its power, and humanity had survived the first true test. Elias looked at the planet below, his eyes sharp. "This is only the beginning," he said. "They have more surprises, and we will face them all. But we will not fail. We are human. We adapt. We fight. And we win." The fleet prepared for the next wave, fully aware that the real war was only starting. Below, the underground network stirred, glowing veins lighting up as if signaling to hidden forces. Humanity had survived, but the enemy's deepest secrets had not yet been revealed. The tension in space was heavy, the air charged with anticipation, and every human knew the next battle would be even greater. The humans hovered above the battlefield, catching their breath after the first encounter with the underground enemy. Smoke rose from shattered machines and broken terrain. Commander Elias studied the sensors carefully. The enemy had revealed some of its strength, but humans had learned something crucial. They had an advantage if they could use it wisely. "Lieutenant Mara, analyze the warlord's patterns," Elias ordered. "We need to know how it moves, how it reacts, everything." Mara nodded, her fingers flying over the controls. "I see a pattern, Commander. When it swings its limbs, it pauses for just a fraction of a second before attacking again. We can exploit that." Elias leaned forward, a plan forming in his mind. "Good. Prepare a strike squad. We will hit the warlord during its attack cycle, while drawing the smaller enemies away." His voice was calm but firm. The crew understood immediately. Every human had trained for this, thinking, adapting, and using intelligence to overcome raw power. Small fighter ships darted through the smoke and debris, weaving around the underground creatures. They lured the smaller enemies away from the warlord, pulling them into traps. Mines exploded with precision, tearing apart groups of creatures in controlled bursts. The humans were clever, using the battlefield itself as a weapon. Above, the larger human ships hovered, weapons charged. They waited, synchronized with the fighter squad. When the warlord raised its massive limb to strike, the humans unleashed a coordinated attack. Energy beams, missiles, and plasma bolts hit the glowing cores simultaneously. Sparks and metal flew as the warlord roared in pain, staggering under the assault. Mara's voice came over the comms, tense but excited. "Commander, we are breaking through its armor. Focus all fire on the core." Elias nodded. The flagship fired every weapon at once. The energy struck the core, and the warlord faltered. Its glowing veins dimmed, limbs twisting unnaturally as it fell to the ground. The smaller creatures below hesitated, unsure of how to respond without their leader. The humans did not wait. They pressed the advantage, moving carefully but relentlessly. Fighters struck the smaller enemies, targeting cores and energy nodes. The large ships fired in precise patterns, each explosion designed to take out as many enemies as possible without wasting energy. Humans were disciplined, coordinated, and fearless. Even as they destroyed wave after wave, Elias knew the danger was far from over. The underground network was vast, and some machines had already escaped deeper tunnels. But humans had learned something critical. The enemy could be predicted, outsmarted, and defeated if approached with intelligence and teamwork. The fleet continued to push forward, advancing across the battlefield. Every step was calculated, every strike intentional. They moved like a single organism, each part knowing exactly what the others would do. The humans had transformed the chaos of the battlefield into a controlled strategy, exploiting every weakness they could find. Suddenly, the ground shook again. Smaller creatures burst from hidden tunnels, faster and more numerous than before. The humans reacted instantly. Fighter squadrons weaved through the attack, drawing creatures into traps while larger ships fired with precision. Mines and energy blasts tore through the enemy, reducing their numbers before they could reach the fleet. Elias realized something important. "They are learning," he said quietly. "But so are we. We adapt faster than they do." The humans adjusted their strategy mid-battle, changing formations, shifting attacks, and using the terrain to their advantage. Every move demonstrated human ingenuity, the ability to think, to calculate, and to act faster than any enemy could. The enemy counterattacks grew more desperate. Alien machines tried to flank the fleet, ambushing fighters and probing for weak points. But the humans anticipated every move. Mara's sensors detected patterns in the enemy attacks, and Elias coordinated strikes that crushed the enemy before they could complete their maneuvers. Humans were not just surviving, they were controlling the battlefield. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. The humans had destroyed countless machines and pushed the underground forces further back. The fleet hovered over the battlefield, energy weapons still ready, sensors scanning for hidden enemies. Exhaustion touched the crew, but they did not falter. Their minds were sharp, their strategy flawless, their courage unshakable. Elias looked over the battlefield, satisfaction in his eyes. Humanity had turned the first real enemy counterattack into a victory. They had exploited weaknesses, used intelligence, and shown the true strength of human spirit. The warlord was down, the smaller creatures defeated, and the fleet stood ready for whatever the enemy would send next. But even as the humans celebrated a small victory, a warning flickered across the sensors. Deep below, in the darkest tunnels of the planet, massive movements were detected. Something bigger, stronger, and more dangerous was awakening. Elias clenched his fists. "This is far from over," he said. "They will come at us again, stronger than before. But we are ready. Humans always are." The fleet tightened formation, energy shields glowing, weapons primed. Humanity had survived the first major underground attack and had proven its strength. The enemy had revealed its power, but humans had learned its weaknesses. The war was far from finished, but one thing was clear: human ingenuity, courage, and unity would always give them the edge. Above the dark planet, the fleet moved as one, ready for the next wave. The enemy had secrets still, but humanity had proven it could adapt, overcome, and survive. The next battle would be deadly, but humans were prepared. And no matter what came from the depths of this war zone, humanity would never give up. The battlefield had grown quiet, but Commander Elias knew it was only temporary. The enemy was clever, and silence often meant danger. Sensors began to flicker again, showing rapid movements underground. Alien forces were regrouping, faster and more numerous than ever. The humans had won the first wave, but now the enemy would strike back with full force. "Commander, multiple energy signatures detected," Lieutenant Mara said, tension clear in her voice. "They are coordinating an attack from all directions." Elias' eyes narrowed. "Then we must be faster. We cannot let them surround us." The fleet adjusted formation, shields glowing brightly, weapons primed. Every human on board was alert, every mind focused. Suddenly, the ground trembled violently. From the shattered landscape, thousands of alien machines and living hybrids surged forward. They were more aggressive, moving with an intelligence that seemed to anticipate human tactics. Fighter squadrons raced to intercept, weaving through energy blasts as the aliens tried to flank the fleet. One massive creature smashed into a human ship, sending sparks flying. Crew members screamed and ducked as the vessel shuddered under the impact. Elias remained calm. "Divert firepower to the breach. Keep the flagship safe." His voice was firm, steadying the crew. Humans were terrified, yes, but fear did not control them. They acted with precision and courage. Mara's fingers moved over the controls, tracking every enemy movement. "They're adapting," she warned. "The smaller units are working together now, coordinating attacks. They've learned from the last strike." Elias clenched his jaw. "Good. Let them learn. We'll exploit it." Humans had faced adaptive enemies before. They had survived because they could think faster, act smarter, and fight harder. The aliens attacked from every side. Energy beams sliced the sky, explosions tore through the air, and the ground shook with the force of their assault. Human fighters dodged expertly, targeting the glowing cores of the larger enemies. Smaller ships drew off groups of attackers, leading them into traps. Mines detonated, ripping through alien ranks. But the sheer numbers of the enemy made every second a fight for survival. A massive hybrid unit lunged at the flagship, claws glowing with energy. Shields flared, taking the impact, but sparks and metal shards flew across the bridge. Elias barked orders. "Fighter Squadron Delta, intercept. Focus fire on the glowing limb." The pilots responded instantly, weaving through blasts and striking with precision. The massive creature staggered, retreating for the first time. Even as they fought, Elias noticed a pattern. They attack in bursts, then pause for a moment. "That's our window," he said. He coordinated a series of synchronized strikes. Human ships fired together, energy bolts hitting cores as the enemy paused. The ground shook violently as the aliens faltered, their attack wavering. But the danger was far from over. From deep underground, a massive shadow emerged. It was unlike anything humans had faced before, a fusion of living tissue and machine, towering over the battlefield, eyes glowing red. It moved with speed and intelligence, striking multiple targets at once. This was no ordinary warlord, this was the enemy's ultimate weapon. The fleet reacted instantly, energy beams blasting, missiles striking, and fighters diving into the fray. Explosions lit the sky as humans pushed forward, targeting weak points, adapting to every move. The massive creature roared, a terrifying sound that echoed across the battlefield. Sparks and metal rained down as the humans fought desperately to survive. Elias knew they needed a plan, not just firepower. "We cannot just attack, it will overwhelm us. We must split its attention," he shouted. He ordered a daring maneuver, A small group of fighters would draw the creature's focus while the main fleet struck from above and behind. The pilots obeyed without hesitation, weaving through danger, dodging energy blasts, and baiting the massive enemy into a trap. The plan worked. The creature's attention was divided, giving the humans a clear shot at its core. Energy weapons struck simultaneously, tearing into the glowing veins of its body. The alien roared in pain, staggering, but still dangerous. Fighters pressed closer, coordinating attacks with precision. Sparks flew, metal twisted, and the battlefield became a storm of light and fire. Finally, the massive hybrid faltered. Its limbs crashed to the ground, energy flickering out. The smaller aliens hesitated, unsure how to respond without their leader. Humans pressed the attack, destroying the remaining forces with ruthless efficiency. The battlefield fell silent once more, only the hum of human engines breaking the quiet. Elias allowed himself a short breath. The humans had survived the enemy's most desperate counterattack yet. They had faced overwhelming numbers, close calls, and the enemy's ultimate weapon, and they had endured. But he knew this was only the beginning. The underground forces were vast, and the enemy had more surprises waiting. The fleet regrouped above the planet, shields glowing, weapons ready. Crew members wiped sweat and soot from their faces, exhaustion showing, but not fear. Humanity had survived another attack, proven its courage, and demonstrated the power of intelligence and teamwork. Elias looked over the horizon, eyes hard and determined. "They think they can stop us," he said. "They have no idea what humanity is capable of. The next wave will come, and we will be ready. We always are." Below the surface, the enemy stirred once more, preparing for the battles yet to come. The war had escalated, close calls had tested human skill and courage, and suspense hung thick over the planet. But one truth remained clear: humanity would not back down, and it would fight with every ounce of strength, strategy, and spirit it possessed. The battlefield below was a scene of fire and smoke. Broken alien machines littered the ground, and the air trembled with the echoes of distant explosions. Commander Elias stood on the bridge of the flagship, eyes fixed on the massive alien stronghold ahead. This was it, the heart of the enemy forces. Humanity had survived wave after wave, but now it was time to finish the fight. "Prepare for full assault," Elias ordered. "All units move in. We hit the stronghold at once." His voice was calm, but every word carried the weight of command. Crew members moved with precision, activating weapons, energizing shields, and readying fighter squadrons. The humans were united, focused, and unstoppable. From deep within the stronghold, glowing lights pulsed. Alien war machines stirred, their movements faster and more coordinated than ever. The enemy had learned, adapted, and now prepared its final defense. The humans did not hesitate. They had studied every pattern, every weakness, and now their strategy would be put to the ultimate test. Fighter squads darted forward, weaving through enemy fire while targeting the outer defenses. Missiles and energy bolts tore through the alien walls, blasting gaps for the larger ships to enter. The flagship and its escorts moved like predators, weapons blazing, as humans poured their strength into the assault. Inside the stronghold, massive warlords rose, merging living tissue and machinery in terrifying forms. They moved with intelligence, striking multiple targets at once, but the humans were ready. Elias had devised a plan: divide the enemy's attention, exploit weaknesses, and strike the core simultaneously. "Delta Squad, draw their focus," Elias commanded. "Main Fleet, aim for the core. Fire together." The fighters darted through the chaos, dodging energy beams and clawed limbs, baiting the warlords into exposing their vulnerabilities. Meanwhile, the main fleet unleashed a synchronized barrage, hitting the glowing cores of every massive enemy unit. Sparks flew, metal twisted, and the stronghold shuddered under the assault. Lieutenant Mara's fingers moved rapidly across the controls. "Commander, the energy shields are fluctuating. We can break through if we strike now." Elias nodded sharply. "All fire, focus on the central core. Every weapon, every missile, every beam, hit together." The humans obeyed instantly. Energy beams and plasma bolts converged on the core, striking with perfect timing. The alien warlords roared, staggering under the combined assault. The stronghold shook violently, cracks spreading across its surface as explosions tore through walls and machinery. Even as the core enemy faltered, smaller creatures swarmed from hidden chambers, attempting to defend it. Fighters engaged them, weaving through attacks, striking the glowing nodes that powered the machines. Humans moved with precision, every action calculated, every move coordinated. The aliens had strength, speed, and numbers, but humans had intelligence, unity, and courage. The flagship moved closer, targeting the central core directly. The massive alien warlord controlling the underground network rose, eyes glowing red, limbs thrashing in desperation. It was the last line of defense. Elias gritted his teeth. "Now," he said quietly. The fleet fired all remaining weapons at once. Energy struck the core from multiple directions, tearing into the warlord with unstoppable force. The alien screamed, a sound of metal grinding and organic shrieking, as it collapsed. Sparks and energy erupted, and the smaller creatures faltered, unsure what to do without guidance. Humans pressed the advantage, striking each remaining enemy with precision and speed. The battlefield became chaos for the aliens, but order for the humans. Finally, the warlords fell, the cores destroyed, and the stronghold crumbled. The remaining enemy units scattered or were eliminated. The humans hovered above the wreckage, shields glowing, weapons ready, but the fight was over. The planet was quiet, smoke and fire rising from the ruins of alien machines and structures. Elias looked at the battlefield below, chest heaving but eyes steady. Humanity had faced impossible odds, adapted to every threat, and conquered the enemy. They had used intelligence, courage, and teamwork to triumph over a force that no single human could have faced alone. The war had been fierce, brutal, and unrelenting, but humans had won. Around him, the crew began to relax, exhaustion mingled with pride. The humans had proven their strength, not through sheer numbers, but through ingenuity, strategy, and determination. They had faced the enemy's core power and emerged victorious. Humanity had entered the war zone and survived every trial. But even as Elias watched, a faint signal flickered from the ruins. A pulse of energy, small and distant, escaped the destroyed stronghold. It was barely noticeable, but enough to make him pause. "They may have more," he said quietly, almost to himself. "But we are ready. Humanity always adapts. Humanity always survives." The fleet regrouped, energy shields glowing, engines humming steadily. The humans had conquered the alien stronghold, destroyed the core enemy, and proven that no force could match their courage, intelligence, and unity. The war had ended for now, but the stars awaited, and humanity would be ready for whatever came next. Above the dark planet, the human fleet shone like a beacon. The enemy had tried, had fought with strength and cunning, but it had underestimated one thing: the indomitable spirit of humanity. Elias smiled slightly, knowing the truth that had carried them through every battle. Humans adapt, humans endure, and humans win. The war zone was silent now, but the story of humanity's courage had only begun. The battlefield was quiet at last. Smoke rose from shattered alien machines, twisted metal, and scorched terrain. The human fleet hovered above, engines humming softly, energy shields glowing faintly in the dim light. Commander Elias stood on the bridge of the flagship, staring at the ruins below. Victory had been hard-won, but humanity had survived. Humanity had won. Crew members moved quietly, tending to systems, checking for damage, and scanning the horizon for any signs of hidden enemies. Lieutenant Mara approached Elias, her face tired but proud. "Commander, all systems report secure. No more enemy movement detected." Elias nodded. "Good. This is the moment to reflect, but not to celebrate too loudly. The war may be over here, but the universe is vast. Danger could return at any time." The humans gathered together on the flagship's observation deck, looking down at the war-torn planet. Fires burned in pockets across the landscape, but the enemy forces were destroyed or scattered. They had seen the enemy's strength, survived every trap, and emerged victorious. The fleet had proven its skill, courage, and unity. Elias spoke quietly, but his words carried weight. "Look at what we've done," he said. "We faced an enemy that was faster, stronger, and smarter than we expected. They adapted, attacked, and tried to overwhelm us. And yet, we survived. We learned, we planned, we fought. We did not rely on luck. We relied on each other. And we won." The crew nodded, some smiling, some silent, all feeling the truth of his words. Humanity had entered a war zone and faced a terrifying enemy. Machines and living hybrids had challenged every skill, every strategy, and every ounce of courage. But humans had endured. Humans had triumphed. As they looked out at the planet below, Elias reflected on the lessons learned. Humans had survived because they were adaptable, creative, and united. Every pilot, every engineer, every soldier had played a role. No single human could have faced this threat alone. It was their unity that had turned chaos into victory, and intelligence that had turned danger into opportunity. But even in this victory, there was caution. Deep in the shadows of the planet, a faint pulse of energy flickered. Almost imperceptible, but present. Elias noticed it on the sensors. "They may not be completely gone," he said, a hint of concern in his calm voice. "There is always more to learn. Always another challenge. And when it comes, we will be ready." The fleet began repairs and resupply, engines humming steadily, lights glowing across the decks. Human ships moved with purpose, crew members working in quiet efficiency. Above them, the stars stretched endlessly, silent witnesses to humanity's triumph. The war had been brutal, but the humans had proven one undeniable truth. No matter how advanced the enemy, no matter how deadly, humanity adapts, survives, and fights back. Elias turned to look at his crew, eyes softening slightly. "This is why we fight. Not for glory, not for conquest, but to survive, to protect, and to prove that humanity is capable of facing any threat. We are clever, we are strong, and we are united. That is what makes us human. That is what makes us victorious." The crew stood silently for a moment, each feeling the weight of the words. Every ship, every soldier, every mind had contributed to the survival of humanity. The enemy had underestimated them, and it had been their greatest mistake. Humanity had entered a war zone, faced the impossible, and emerged stronger than ever. As the fleet prepared to leave orbit, a faint signal flickered across the sensors again. This time, it was different. A small, fast pulse, moving deeper into space. Elias frowned, feeling the spark of curiosity and caution. "The enemy may return," he said. "But we will be ready. Humanity always is." The ships moved forward, leaving the war-torn planet behind, engines glowing against the dark canvas of space. Humanity had survived the ultimate test and proved its strength. The stars awaited, full of challenges, dangers, and mysteries. And humanity, united and unbroken, would face them all. Elias looked out at the endless black, the light of distant suns reflecting in his eyes. A faint smile touched his lips. "This is only the beginning," he whispered. Humanity had entered the war zone, and the enemy had not survived a single moment. The story of human courage, intelligence, and unity would continue, through battles, through trials, and into the vast unknown. Above the battlefield, the fleet shone like a beacon, a symbol of human strength. The war was over, for now, but humanity had proven one thing forever. No matter the odds, no matter the enemy, humans would endure. Humans would fight. Humans would win. And somewhere, deep in the ruins, the faint pulse continued, a reminder that the universe was far from finished.